Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Hi, everybody. Sorry for not making it the last 2 weeks. It has been a rough couple weeks. Lots of illnesses and not so fun stuff. Who's waiting on this announcement from the Royals? Anybody? Howdy, Stream Finder. Howdy, Slayer. Welcome to Sunday Night Market Scan. Good evening. Always, sometimes. I love the contradictory nature of your name. It's fantastic. Hello, iPhone. Good evening. Spy hit that price target we've been watching. Set up about 2 weeks ago. Poked it, pulled right back. Perfect. Now we get to see what we're going to do. I know it's iPhone. Anybody can y'all hear me, or is that Mahida's issue? Cool. It's not me, it's you, dude. It's not me, it's you. Second worst words to hear, except the first ones would be you say I love you and they say thank you and then dump you 3 days later. Wow, wow, wow. We usually get about 30 to 40 people, so I'm just going to let it run for a few more minutes here. See if anybody else picks up on it. Everybody have a good week, bad week, green week, red week. The markets are just going straight up. There's been no quit. The long term is doing great. Like everything's green. Imagine longing in September before the run, or in October there. Just wonder if we pull let's see, not that. Let's pull a fib based extension here. So we'll go from COVID lows up to the highs in January 22, down to the bounce point that we had there in October 2022. And let's see what we get for projections there. It's 348.11. Do some settings. 348.11. Boom. So, I mean, that puts the next leg up over 600. Interesting. Well, welcome, Livins. Oh my goodness. Livins Lucius? What name? So the markets are off to the races, right? A fib extension thinks that we should be up around 600 for the next full leg extension. Then everybody's going to have to apologize to River for his SPY 600 comments. I'm just kidding. You don't need to apologize to River for anything. Welcome to the Sunday Night Market Scan. My name is Joe. This is the lecture where I go over basically the bigger tickers in the markets, as well as whatever anybody has for requests, if I can get to it. I am under the weather. I apologize if I make nasally sounds. Currently battling strep after having RSV after ridiculousness. So I apologize if I sound gunky or whatever. I will say, just to fire this off, please read the disclaimer at onlyoptionstrades.com/disclaimer. I am not a financial advisor, and trading is risky. All right. I will go over the tickers as I see them from a technical standpoint and give my thoughts and views on maybe what's happening geopolitically or what's going on in the current economy. And they're just my opinions. I will lay out any trade ideas that I see that I maybe want to take later on. That is in no means a signal to buy or sell anything. There are no signals here. This is just basically discussion over the main tickers, how we're going, and just how far Boeing is going to go down. I mean, that's pretty. I'm thinking 150 on Boeing. I'm thinking 150 on Boeing at least. Every week there's 3 new headlines about things blowing off their planes. But SPY, I think, is going to keep going up. We might get a little pullback here. I really wouldn't mind to see a pullback here. It's been trucking along in ridiculous fashion. I use TradingView. That is the chart software you see in front of you. It's just my preferred charting. I do most of my trading through it as well. But it's free. If you don't have it, you can go get it. It's just tradingview.com, and they have free charting. So I like it. There's a lot of indicators that can be used. It's pretty powerful. I enjoy it. So SPY, we were watching this this setup here on the monthly. We got these 3 trend bar gaps coming out, which a trend bar gap is the difference between the high of a wick and then the low of the subsequent wick, leaving an area where price is breaking through in a fast manner. As a result, it leaves an imbalance or shows that price is moving quickly. It also gives the ability to judge kind of like a trend, right? So we see price moving very quickly on a monthly time frame. This is not the 1 minute, this is the 1 month. And we saw price moving really fast out of that October, over that October high into December. And we got a 3 gap setup, which is right here, trend bar gap, get a breakout, measuring, and an exhaustion gap, 1, 2, 3. That's how we projected that price target there. Then we got another one, and we projected this price target up here to 515, and that's exactly where we poked, which has been pretty nice. We're halfway done with March, so we're not out of the woods yet as far as candlesticks are concerned on SPY. So I'm going to relieve myself of the monthly and head over to the weekly. I primarily look at weeklies and dailies, as well as the 4-hour. And then I look for entries on the 1 hour and basically the 1 hour and the 5 minute. That's just how I work. I don't really look at the 15 or the 30. The 1 hour and the 5 minute are my bread and butter. I like those. But we've been in an up channel here. We hit that price target. We backed off. And now we're at the bottom of this channel. I mean, given the last, what is that? 6 months of price action here. And it's just been going straight up. Every time it comes down here, it bounces up. Technically speaking, since breakouts fail, quote unquote fail, I think the statistic is 80 or 90% of the time, depending on who you listen to or who you're studying from. Al Brooks will say, I think breakouts fail 90% of the time. So we're in a channel. And if that is the case, if breakouts fail 90% of the time, this would be a spot where we could look for a potential move to the upside. We are at third gap here. So there's one gap, and then here's another one. Very small gap. And I enjoy the gaps. They help me measure and see just how price is moving. This right here is a weekly. This is the weekly chart where we see price long term. We're just seeing it go up. So this is where I get my basically my daily bias. Long-term charts. I see price doing nothing but go up since October 2023 in a nice channel moving to the upside. I'm thinking bullish. However, we do have FOMC. Now, here's kind of what I think is happening right now. I prefer solid candles. Here's what I feel is happening right now. I think the market is trying to call the Fed's bluff on the rates. And I think they're trying to jack up the market. So the Fed is forced to raise rates or to lower rates earlier to quiet the markets down. That's kind of what I feel is happening. I don't think it's going to happen yet. I honestly don't think it's going to happen yet. And we have FOMC on Wednesday at 2:00. And I think Powell is also speaking this week. So this is something we need to keep an eye on this week. There is, FOMC is going to be where they tell us if they're going to raise rates or not. I'm leaning toward not. And if that's the case, we're going to see most likely some bullishness in the dollar this week, which could show us some bearishness in the markets. And since we're at this point at the bottom of this channel right here, and we could be looking at some bullishness in the dollar, typically when the dollar goes up, typically, not always, typically when the dollar goes up, equities come down. Since we're at the bottom of this channel, we could be looking for a little pullback, which would be nice. We've done nothing but go up since October. It would be nice to get an actual pullback, or even something that resembles that. I would love to see a retest of 500, maybe even 495. Is that going to happen this week? It could. It depends on what's going on. I don't know, Lambos. What do you think? Because that's what I'm thinking. If I look over at the dollar right now, we're coming off this 618. We're in this pennant. It's pushing up. It's bounced off of this December order block numerous times. It's getting ready to break out. Oh, for real. I mean, the markets are always going to go up. They're designed to always go up. And I don't think the dollar's been getting hammered. I think the dollar has been doing nothing but go up since February. And I think we're going to see it continue to go up. But that's my opinion. Are we going to see a breakout this week? Maybe not, but I think we might get some bullishness in the dollar, at least up to this trend line, which could give us some bearishness in the markets. And if we're at a breaking point where we dip down, I think that could give us a little bit of like a big push down. But for the most part, I don't think we're going to get too big of a pullback. Technically speaking, we did get an inside week here compared to the first week of March. So trade-wise, I could be looking at something like a break of last week's low into the previous week's low, or a break of last week's high into the previous week's high. That's not that big of a trade. The downside is the bigger day trade there. This would be the better risk to reward, in my opinion, if it happens. This is just me planning out what I would like to see happen and then what I would do if I see that happening. So right now, technically speaking, I would like to see the SPY bounce up into this channel. However, if we do see bullishness in the dollar based on whatever the Fed says on Wednesday, we could see a pullback in equities. And we're at a point where we could see a at least somewhat of a reversal, either a short-term pullback or something to the downside. Qs are looking pretty much the same. They've done nothing but go up. We got the second leg out of this flag. Let's see what that measured out at. We're at the 768 on the Fib retrace of that. So we could see it go up a little bit, but will the attacks from Ukraine on Russian refineries affect the tickers like energy or oil? I don't think so. I think that is going to be very localized between them. We may see like OPEC use it as basically a politicking point, but let's take a look at oil. Oil's got this big, nice flag that it's been working on here on the weekly. If it gets a breakout, I mean, it could definitely go up, but it's been a relatively quiet winter here in America. And given the fact that most of us are, like, we do use a great amount of oil, I don't necessarily know if we're going to see too crazy of oil prices. If it breaks out of this, we could see some movement, definitely. I don't know if there are many U.S. refineries that are offline. That's not something that I've paid attention to. So the Qs, I think the Qs have a little bit more room that they could be moving. They are pulling back to the bottom of this channel as well. I would like to see maybe a little bit of a cool back before we continue up. But basically, feeling a little bearish on the equities right now. So something like this, the question is, can I give a quick rundown on using Fibonacci levels? You can use them lots of ways. How I'm using them here is I'm using Fibonacci extensions. Okay. This is a trend-based fib extension. So I'll start from the COVID lows, the last swing low, the big run up to new highs, and then the pullback here to the last swing low before we continued up to newer highs. This would be a fib-based extension, and that will give the measurement to the next leg up based on the move from this swing low up to this new all-time high, the pullback, and then the next leg up would be around 610 on SPY. So that's how I'm using the fib extension in this scenario to measure the second leg up from the COVID lows. Diamonds have been ripping. They haven't hit their price target yet from the weekly setup, or the monthly setup, actually. So here's the monthly setup, the breakaway gap, the measuring gap. Haven't gotten the exhaustion gap, and we poked this high twice. I would love to see a move over this 392, we'll call it 392.85, for a move up and maybe a strong move up into that price target. So that will be something that I am watching this week in the Boomer Decks. I just right click settings, canvas. You can change your background, whatever color you want. Okay. So I'm looking for the Dow Jones to continue this move to the upside that SPY and the Qs have already done. So the Dow is lagging back a little bit behind on this monthly setup. So that might give us the oomph we need on the S&P and the NASDAQ to get up to those levels up there. IWM is back up to this area here. Got the poke above this high and then the pullback. That's from a weekly, I do believe. Yep. Right above this level, the weekly, the pullback. I'm still bearish on IWM. I think it wants to come back down to the bottom of this range. It's showing some bullishness though. So this trade might get stopped out, and that's fine, in my opinion. We did get the breakout of this flag. It could put us around 231 for an extension up for the next leg. But I'm going range as the setup instead. Apple got the breakdown to the downside of this wedge. It's pushing into this weekly order block. I think we might see a big move come out of Apple here soon. There's a lot of support here. We have a volume imbalance on the weekly chart. We have an order block here on the weekly chart, and we have an inside week last week. So this would be something I'd watch for a day trade. Last week's high to the previous week's high, or last week's low to the previous week's low. Both would give a decent trade intraday. So those are the levels that I would mark out. And then we could watch it on like a 1 hour here. So we already got the break to the downside. We could get the retest here. We're ranging, right? I would like to take a contract to like maybe something like at the money for a break to the upside, adjust my stop to at least get a 2-to-1 or to the downside. That's something that I would look at for a trade. Okay. So keep an eye on Apple. That could be a nice trade either way for a nice day trade. NVIDIA coiling up here, getting nice and tight. I think they've got something happening this week, right? I'm sure everybody's going to tell me they've got some sort of news coming out. And they've got this nice triangle here on the 1 hour. The big push up hit their target on the fib extension. Also an inside week. I wouldn't mind seeing a pullback. And if we see NVIDIA pullback, that might be enough to drag the markets down. So I would be leaning a little bit bearish on NVIDIA looking at this chart right now. Definitely would be looking bearish. All right. AMD is going to be the same as NVIDIA. It's going to come down. If NVIDIA goes down, AMD is going to come down. You could maybe use it as a sympathy trade based on if AMD's contracts are too much. You could look at, or if NVIDIA's contracts are too much, you could look at AMD's. As far as like what would I look at for a trade here on NVIDIA, I would look for a break to the downside. And then let's take a look at the weekly. It does have this nice volume imbalance here. And this one here. What does that look like on the 1 hour? Levels of support. So if it breaks to the downside, I stop up there and see if we can get a push down. So figure possible 800 contracts on NVIDIA if it gets a break to the downside. If it gets a break to the upside, I would target these previous highs. Not that one. Hello. I would target these previous highs. Okay. Hope that makes sense. Amazon pullback. We're also looks like it's ranging here. Looks like a couple weeks ago I thought it might bounce up and then back down. Looks like it bounced up, found support halfway through this gap, and then gave a push up and is now ranging up here. So it's just quietly making its way up and about. Moving up, trying to break out of this broadening formation. I think Amazon is going to try, maybe not this week, but I think probably within the next month and a half is probably going to try 200. I don't know what news they have coming, if anything, but their chart is feeling very bullish. I think it at least wants 190, and I think it's going to have enough to try 200. And then we'll see what happens after that. Meta. Now, Meta, I was expecting it to go up further. There was a very large whale in 950 contracts for January that had been rolling and making a ridiculous amount of money. They started with, I think, 10 million, and then they cashed out around 156 million after the 3 trades that I followed them on. and they cashed them out. So we might be looking for a pullback in Meta. So I would keep that on watch. Let's just take a look at the month is feeling a bit bearish there. Weekly had this nice flag channel to the upside, the fake break to the up, and then the back into it. Got the long trade there that we had set up, so I'll delete that. Let me go ahead and delete this. We got a big area to the downside. It was a monster trade, dude. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. I mean, just looking at the chart right now, I don't know if I'd really want to take a trade on Meta. I'd wait till it breaks to the bottom side of here. But I use a service called unusualwhales.com. And that allows me to look at options flow and stuff like that. Excuse me. I mean, price action wise, that's just not something that I feel I would like to take a trade on right now. So Meta, I would just hold off. I mean, I could maybe draw a trend line here. It's got 2 points, both at the open, as a possible break to the upside, but we'll just see. Is it rare to see stock prices go against whales? I mean, it really depends on the situation. If you're talking like 10 million into Meta, it could easily go the other way because I mean 10 million in the grand scheme of Meta's options contracts is nothing. Uh, if I see someone put $10 million into like Riot, that could be a pretty big red flag that somebody knows something that nobody else does. Because you don't know, I don't normally see $10 million go into a Meta option trade, so or a Riot option trade. But as far as like, do they go against the whales? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes the whales have so much money and are able to buy so much time that eventually they're green no matter what. But watching them does allow to like, I mean, we saw Meta would be a great example because that $10 million trade came after Meta dipped below 100 and then came back up. When it was up at, I think, 115, 120 is when they got into Meta 600 calls for a year out. And then that's where they made a whole bunch of their money and they cashed them out, I think, right before they hit 300. And then they rolled them out to 950s. And then they cashed them out here around 500. So I didn't see them go any further. They could have just been somebody who thought, hey, Meta, they're not going to stay. If they come back above 100, like they're going to the moon, and they could have, and they were right. A lot of times you see these whales, it could be a big number to us, but it's well within risk for them too. It could easily be a hedge fund or somebody with a ton of money who is putting $10 million into a trade, and that's a lot of money to me, but maybe they have, $350 million in their portfolio and they can risk $10 million. So perspective is a big thing when it comes to whales. Perspective in the eyes of risk management, if that makes sense. Microsoft pushing up again. Is sitting here, just kind of bouncing back and forth. I think we're going to probably see some chop Monday and Tuesday and just some backwards motion here. It did go up and take out these highs and then come right back to the range. It would make sense to me that it's going to try and come down here to these lows right below 400 and maybe take out some of those lows. We could see that happen this week. Monday and Tuesday would be a good day to chop everybody up and take their premium. So, I mean, trade wise, I wouldn't mind possibly taking a trade here to the bottom of this range. Set my stop somewhere up there. Yeah. I mean, those are going to be big contracts. I could do something like day trade that, just day trade out the money stuff, like 400, get something like 400 puts and see where we are at the end of the day. I don't know what 400 puts are currently priced at. though. All right, Netflix also hanging out up here. There was some news about them raising their prices again. Uh, we'll see what happens. They are at the bottom of this trend line here. I mean, that's a great trend line. Let's take a look at the weekly. There is this gap up here we haven't touched yet. Love to see a push into that gap before it pulls back any further. But long-term weekly chart here, Netflix feels pretty bullish. Not going to lie. I thought it might pull back at the 618 here. And instead of pulling back, it blasted right through it. Now it's pushing up again. So maybe a push in the maybe 645. Give another gap here, which would make for a nice continuation up. So we'll see what happens this week on Netflix if it can get a break above that 624, 625 part. Right. It is what it is. I don't know. I mean, I canceled my Netflix. My mom canceled her Netflix. Most people I know are canceling their Netflix is just because well, like I canceled it because I just don't watch the content and I felt like it was pointless to pay for it. Maybe later down the road I will, but I mean, I've got kids and most of my content is Disney stuff. So so instead of Netflix, I got Disney Plus. Boeing, Boeing, I think wants 150 really, if not more. I thought it might try to push into that 168 and fill this cap, but it just did not. I think they had more stuff blowing off their planes there. So I'm still looking bearish on Boeing. This company every week is just another hit after another hit. On the plus side, I mean, looking at the monthly here, last month's volume was almost nothing compared to the previous month. February's volume was almost nothing compared to January's volume. Switch out to the weekly. We did get that channel down and then the breakdown with increased volume. So it would make sense to me that Boeing is going to continue down. And I'd look for a 150 price target, in my opinion. That's where I think it's going. Tesla. Tesla's at a very high bounce point. It did get the break to down to the, it did get the break to the downside of this channel, close to the outside of it. Big support. You're right. That is big support. It also has this gap right here that it poked before. So right back here in April is where it poked this gap and then ripped to the upside. And then it channeled. And now we're poking that gap again. So this is, you're right, a big support area in my opinion. Streamfinder, are you Dirty River? So I mean, it is at a big support level. I wouldn't mind seeing a bounce right here. This would, in my opinion, be a good price for a bounce. I could possibly swing trade it back to the upside here. But I think 150 is going to be a pretty big mental number too if it gets down there. So if it gets down to 150, I would love to go long on Tesla. I don't know if they have anything coming out. I don't know if they have anything going on, but they are definitely there. So we'll see what happens with Tesla right there. Or if you have the money, you buy some shares. Steve, in my opinion, I think Tesla is a great information company and they have more information than a lot of other companies on their customers. So I don't think they're in a position where they're ever going to be completely worthless. I think we're seeing like I think we're seeing consumers losing faith in the EV market, though, especially for affordability with everything as high a price as it is. People just don't want to pay 50, 60 grand for a Tesla if they don't have to, in my opinion. Uh, so that could be factoring into some of it. I don't know if they still have their Bitcoin. I'm not sure if Elon got rid of it or not. But even if they have Bitcoin, I mean, we've seen Bitcoin since October 2023 skyrocket. Okay. Bitcoin since October 2023 has gone up 196%. Tesla since October 2023 has gone down 40%. So whether or not they have Bitcoin, in my opinion, is irrelevant because it's obviously not enough to impact their bottom line. How do I know to complete the trend line when making one? Do you focus on the wicks or three bounces? Uh, Mostly wicks. I like to use wicks. A lot of other people like to use the body of the candle. I think if price went there, regardless of if not it closed there, it's notable. So something like this top one, was only 2 wicks, right? And I drew this after December 2023. But here's how I did that. So I just used this, and then you can hold control and it duplicates, control click, and it duplicates it into another line. And I just take it and I dragged it down until I found it looking like it could find some other spots here. And then there's where the 3 came in. So I think symmetry is huge. And something like that, it ended up working out quite well. I think symmetry is pretty big in the market, and equal highs are going to be equal lows as far as percents are concerned, and that's exactly what's happening thus far. So that's how I think about trend lines. Coin, I'm still bearish on coin. I really don't like this company. This chart tells me it wants to go down, but Bitcoin keeps going up. So it's probably going to gap up to 300 tomorrow morning and completely ruin every other trade that I put into this. I keep thinking it wants to go down. I don't know if I'm trying to catch a knife or what, but it feels like to me like it wants to just dump. But that's going based on a chart. I don't. I think, in my opinion, I think Robinhood is a better buy than Coin. I've got some shares of Robinhood. I think it definitely has more potential. Um, but yeah, here's my pen. Yeah, all that snow, KO, MU. What's a suggested call for the next few days? Can I show some ideas on coin? I mean, I just said I want coin to go down. So I don't think calls, in my opinion, are right. Um, but if you want to get calls, I would switch to the 1 hour and I would look at this trend line. And if it gets above that trend line, I would take a call to the previous high. That's what I would do. So we'll see if it wants to break out or not. Or if this area right here, zoom in right here. See this area right here? This area of consolidation in March. See if that's going to be the cause for some downward price action. We'll just go away already. Okay. So we broke below that. We bounced at this long-term level. Now we're pushing up and we can't get back above that consolidation. So either it's going to, in my opinion, consolidate here a little bit more and then break out, or it will consolidate, not even consolidate a whole lot, and then dump back lower, in my opinion. I'll add a hood to the list. So as far as calls, like you said there, Sanjay, I would just wait for it to break that trend line and then take the call to the previous high. Gonna hit up Roku, Disney, and a few others, and then I'll get to your requests. Roku consolidating down here after the big dump to the downside. This, excuse me. I know Kathy is buying at these levels, but Kathy buys lots of stuff at horrible levels. So I wouldn't put too much stock into that. This right now is ranging quite a bit. I would watch this price area that it's just bouncing back and forth in for a breakout either to the upside or to the downside. Yes, Lena, what can I do for you? I'll be right with you. Hold on. All right. So Roku, I would be looking for a break of that range to the upside or the downside. It's feeling like it might want to break to the downside, but I mean that could be technically called a bearish triangle if you want to get terminology about it. Disney took out the long that we were, or completed the long trade that we were watching through the price target. Now it's consolidating up here. It's got this nice little trend line triangle that is putting in. So Disney on watch for that. I think it wants to continue up. So usually in this setup here from the monthly, so we got the breakaway gap, the measuring gap, the price target projection, and now we're putting in the exhaustion gap right here. If it stays, basically, I'm going to say if it stays above like 109, 108 after this month, I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it like chop around up here, right? For our next move for the next leg up for Disney. On a weekly level, I mean, that just basically looks like chop essentially. So we'll see if it wants to come back down to this big gap or not here from the weekly and maybe reload on some imbalance here before trying to take the next leg up. But Disney is something I would watch for a continuation. The continuation to the probably to the upside, but it's already completed the move. It's already completed the trade that we were watching. So for now, it's just to sit back and wait for it to present another trade. Google, nice bounce on the weekly here, taking out the highs of the previous week. Didn't quite get down to that exhaustion gap again, but this is another one that I'm expecting to just range here and bounce back and forth. So we'd already put in a low here in December. It tried that low again. Price reversal on the weekly. I would expect this to go back to the upside here and put in another top here around 151, 153. That's what I'd be expecting on Google. SoFi, Hood. Got Hood on the list. Amazon, I think we touched on that earlier. Amazon, I think it's going to range here, but ultimately I think it makes a run at 200 within the next month. Cisco break to the downside, kind of ranging here as well. Not really seeing much of a trade on Cisco. They did lose that government contract, so puts probably. If you want to trade trend lines, there's a 2-point trend line right there. See if it comes down below that, down to 44. Goldman is still holding that broadening formation right below this high. Got the close above it, but came back down, just wicking back and forth like ridiculous. So as far as banks are concerned, who knows? Right now, is Goldman is just kind of planned here. In this broadening information, I would expect it to come back down to like 368 or so. And Morgan also just ranging, trying to break out, filling gaps, and just doing nothing really. So taking a look at banks, banks just keep going up. JP Morgan, new all-time highs. Bank of America lagging by quite a bit back to the top side of this channel. Hasn't gotten the break to the downside. We'll see if it wants to break out to the upside or not. Feeling pretty bearish after last week's candle there, the big push down on the failed breakout. Berk B also pull back into that gap. Beautiful gap hold. Push to the upside. I would expect Berk B to at least try this new high again within the next few weeks, which could spell some more highs for XLF. Could be trying these all-time highs right here. So I'd maybe swing some XLF 42s with some time. Would be nice. It's just been nothing but green weeks. Look at that. One red week since October in banking. That's ridiculous. I think if the Fed doesn't do anything, we'll just see banks continuing the trend up. Intel pulling back after hitting the price target and chopping around here between an exhaustion and a measuring gap. It did get the pullback. It's not consolidating above the price target. It's consolidating back down here. So I actually would look for a possible downside trade like below 42 or so back to the downside of this channel. So I'd be looking at something like here. If it gets down to this level again, feels like it wants to break out to the downside and complete the run to the bottom of this channel here. That's my point on Intel. All right, Snow. Boom, 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 boom. So here's the thing about Snow. We got price action coming down rapidly. The bodies are getting smaller. The volume is drying up. I think it's almost ready for a bounce. This is a weekly time frame. Let's take a look at the daily. I think it might want to push down a little bit more and fill this gap from back here. We've got volume. We've got a gap. We've got downside. I think it wants to come down here. I would look for a long around 150 on Snow, in my opinion. Coke tried to break out, didn't get the breakout, came back down, is just consolidating back around this previous high. Oh, excuse me. I still think Coke wants to make a run at least this trend line. Long term, I think it might want to go higher and at least try this previous all-time high here, especially after this bounce here. That's just my opinion. I'm currently in some Coke leaps around at 68 and 70 because I think eventually it wants to get there. Right now it's ranged. Oh, excuse me. I'm having a hard time breathing. Right now it's ranged here. It's tried to break out a couple times and it keeps coming back. Dividend day hit, got the run up and then the pullback again. Earnings clearly wasn't that good if prices already come back down. So maybe short term it might want to come down and try 59 again. Got the increasing volume here on the 1 hour. Look at this volume heading into the close in the last 2 days. Off of this big bounce, I think it might want to come down here again. So maybe short term, some Coke down to 59, 58 and a half. But long term, I think it might want to continue going up. MU this week has earnings, right? Or did they already do earnings? No, MU. Yeah, they've got earnings this week. I do Wednesday there. Uh, I mean, looking at this chart, trend line, tried to get the breakout after hours. I really prefer like so we have after hours information and pre-market information here. So I would really prefer like lines to cross during market hours because that's where the volume is. You don't get there's not a lot of volume at 4 or 5 in the morning when it hits these highs here. The volume is right here at the rejection of 97 and then the push down. It also just happens to line up with this 6 a.m. price here and then this 4 a.m. price here. So it looks like it's trying to break out. I'm expecting to be bullish on MU. I think they've been undervalued for a while, and I think they've been trying to. The market's been kind of sleeping on them. I know they primarily do, like RAM and other memory stuff, but uh, I think they could definitely have something in the pipeline as far as like getting out there and making some new highs. They get the push up out of this wedge. Really nice trade there. Really nice trade out of this wedge. Got the push up, the pull back, and the push out. Took out those previous highs, came back down. Might see it reload here around 86 this week, heading into earnings. That's my take on MU. Hood keeps pushing. I love it. I think it wants more. My shares, I think, are right around 10. I think is what I got in on this big break right here. I had shares from back here too, but I think I sold them on this pump, and then started seeing the volume come in. So I grabbed them around 10 and wrote it up. I mean, long term, I think Hood has way more potential than a lot of other uh, companies, and I mean they have a decent market cap. I think it's around 14 billion. I don't know right offhand. 15 billion market cap. Uh, I would say their largest rivals right now are TD Ameritrade / Schwab. To an extent, I think TD Ameritrade and Schwab offer way more services than Robinhood. But their other one is Webull, and Webull is going public via SPAC and a $7 billion valuation. So either they're undervaluing Webull to try and pump it up to what Robinhood is at, or Robinhood is overvalued. I guess it just depends on how you look at it. I think Robinhood is undervalued still, and I think we might see. Yeah, I'll get to SoFi. Uh, I think we might see some push in Webull when it goes public. I think people might find that one. They've got a lot of products that I think people want. SoFi, so homie can go to bed or something. At the bottom of this range, tried to get the breakout, didn't quite get it. I think this is something. I mean, it's got a nice order block here from the weekly, right here, where we're bouncing right now. So I mean, it wouldn't be a bad spot for a long. I wouldn't mind taking a long here and trying at these previous highs. Would be a nice trade. It's definitely in a premium on a broadening formation. Premium being so basically we get so this broadening formation came down here and started here. So we'll take it up to there. Price is actually below the 50%. Okay. So we're actually in a discount. So that would make sense for it to try and bounce. It does have this gap down here. The market does like to fill gaps. So if, in my opinion, if you were to get in on SoFi, I would get in on shares and leave some money to add. Okay. I hope that helps. CEO. Planeteer. I think they lost some stuff. They didn't make the S&P. They got snubbed for S&P. uh, they got snubbed for S&P. They got the gap up. they hit the price target. They're pulling back. I think they're going to want to reload. I think they're going to want to try this 20 price. I think we're going to see. I think we're going to see Planetary pull back. Honestly, the trade that I would be willing to take actually would be a long, right around 20 and a half for a return up to these previous highs. So still bullish on them long term. I'd love to see them take out 30. But for right now, I think they're going to pull back. I would rather see the pullback and then take the trade to the upside versus trying to trade the pullback. What is Planet Fitness? Didn't I just see something like boycott Planet Fitness or something? I feel like I saw that in the news. Trend line here, up here in the Netherlands, taking out these stops, running this low, grabbing liquidity, pulling to the upside. Even ran this low all the way back here. Look at that. Got a nice break of structure market-wise right here. So this would be a market structure shift. As it hit new highs on this weekly, coming off this pullback. So I'm going to take a fib, measure that swing low to that swing high, and I would look for a trade entry around 56.27 or so for a move up to 75. So I would look for it to pull back a little bit more and then take a trade around that 56 mark for Planet Fitness. That would be what I personally would be looking at. Oh, got in early on Tesla last week and had to sell at a loss. But after seeing my analysis match yours, you want back in. All right. I'm glad. Cheers. Here we go. So I don't know if that could have been really loud. If that was really loud, I am really sorry. Because I did not expect it to be that loud. Anybody have anything else? Anybody watching? There's supposed to be some big news coming out of the UK. Flags are flying at half mast now, and they told the media that something big's going to happen. Anybody pay attention to that or care about that at all? Sometimes I just like to watch it because we don't have royals here in America. Paula speaking. You are right. At FOMC on Wednesday, got oil inventories on Wednesday as well, or Tuesday. Sorry, yeah, no, Wednesday. Unemployment claims, flash PMI. That's not that big. Natural gas storage on Thursday, and then Powell speaks on Friday. So, and not only that, Powell speaks on Friday, but so does Barr and Bostic. So Friday, I don't know if I want to trade Friday. I probably don't want to trade Monday or Tuesday either in the futures world, just because I think it's going to be a lot of chop, maybe just some range stuff, The Chinese cake or the Cheesecake Factory. Chinese cake. Why did I see Chinese cake? Not much here in the way of a trade, in my opinion. It's just sitting here, moving sideways. Not a whole lot there. I mean, it may look like it's trying to break out to make a run for these 41s, but yeah. I hope I feel better sometime soon too, but I have 4 kids, 3 of them in school. So I don't think I'll be feeling good for at least another 15 years. But yes, we have FOMC this weekend, the funds rate. They're basically going to tell us whether or not they're going to raise rates or not. I don't think it's going to happen. If it doesn't happen, if the Fed does not raise rates, I think we continue on the trajectory we're at. I think if they do raise rates or lower rates, if they do lower rates sooner rather than later, I think the market pulls back. But I'm thinking the rates stay the same and we continue on our upward trajectory for now. Also, keep an eye on let's see, what do we have after next? What do we have after this week? We've got GDP next week as well as PCE. And then we've got another jobs report as well as PMI. So next 3 weeks are riddled with economic news. So historically, when interest rates are high and inflation is high, well, the other way around. Historically, when inflation is high, the Fed raises interest rates to quell inflation. Uh, when they pivot from their raising of rates to bring them down, the market pulls back. Why that happens? Uh, Probably because the markets are projecting. The markets are always forward thinking, right? So they run it up. When the Fed says, "Okay, we're actually going to start lowering rates now," they sell things off at the all-time highs. They wait for prices to come back down, and they run it back up again. But historically speaking, whenever the Fed has pivoted off of raising rates or lowering rates, like they started raising rates, right, and the markets dumped, and then they pulled back up. But historically speaking, when they are done raising and start to cut rates, the markets pull back. So anybody have any other tickers they want me to look at? Let's take a look at futures where we're sitting at right now. Nice channel to the upside. Consolidation market in the Asian session here on the S&P. So what's that mean for tomorrow? Not much right now. Just that price hasn't gone above Friday's price and it hasn't gone below Friday's price. It's contracting right now. So London session is going to be pretty key for today. So right around uh, 3 or 4 o'clock, we'll want to see what happens during the London session. If they take out the highs and the lows of the Asian session, they just take out one side but not the other. We'll see. They stay inside Wednesday's range or Friday's range. Could be a whole bag of stuff. What do I think of Snap? I don't. Okay, here's what I think of Snap. I'm older. I have kids. I use Snapchat because grandma and great grandma can use Snapchat. Okay. They get pictures of my kids. They do, oh, it's so pretty, blah, blah, blah. Right. Uh, it's simple enough that they can use it and we don't have to like teach them anything. The problem is it's not popular with the younger generation, in my opinion. I don't see a whole lot of people with Snapchat anymore. A lot of the younger generation is moving away from it, I feel. I don't know what they're moving to, but it doesn't feel like anybody's using Snapchat. And I think their stock price has definitely reflected that. And I mean, I'm not going to pay for Snap Premium, right? I see the ads in the thing, buy Snap Premium, blah blah blah. I don't want to pay Snapchat money. I just don't. Um, it's not worth it to me. Chart wise, I mean, they tried to get the breakout here. They got the pullback. They're bouncing. I think they're going to try around 8. Could probably swing some puts with 30 to 60 days on it and turn a profit. Maybe some like 8 or 7 puts. Maybe a 7.5 to be a little bit more tighter on that. But I just don't see the value in Snap. Like nobody is going to their platform, and they had their feet in pretty heavily into augmented reality stuff, but I'm just not seeing it. Like, there's nothing. I'm not going to use Snapchat to shop. Like, I can't even get rid of the ads, and they subscribe me to crap that I don't care about. Like, I don't like it. Right, and TikTok really crushed them, in my opinion. I absolutely hate Facebook and Instagram, and I don't seriously use the word hate very often. But I hate those companies. They are they do not do well with people's information. They don't care about their customers. Their customers are ad agencies. They're not you, but they don't care about you. You're their product, right? They don't care about you. They don't care about me. All they care about is the information. And they've made that known quite a bit. So I don't like those companies. That doesn't mean they're not profitable. I just don't like Meta. I don't like them. mRNA. I think we're going to see continued downside in mRNA because I don't think anybody is going to be getting booster shots. You might get older people, maybe some people with, like breathing issues, getting COVID booster shots. But honestly, I mean, okay, so I'm over 40. I'm not getting any of these booster shots anymore. They didn't do me any good. I got COVID 4 times. Everybody around me got COVID. I lost my smell and my taste, and I've got long COVID and a Swiss cheese brain at this point. Um, I don't think it matters really, and I think companies like mRNA and BioNTech, which also has earnings this week, was it? Hold on, BNTX. Yeah, I think these are all. I think these companies are going down. I think these companies are going down. What do we have? Drug companies. AstraZeneca seems to be doing well. Pfizer is just getting crapped on, despite the fact that they have the government contracts for all of the COVID vaccines. Eli Lilly off to the moon as always. mRNA, BNTX, J&J. J&J is actually doing pretty well as well. Also just sticking in this range area. So NVAX is a crapshoot. As back to penny stock level. You could probably just get puts on NVAX and it would eventually be profitable. All right, what else did I miss? Am I trading crypto yet? No, I'm not trading crypto yet. I need to deposit money into my account and start following Grizzly because I want to turn 5K into 100K or whatever challenge he's got going on right now, which I'm okay with. But that man has just been hitting it out of the ballpark. He seems to catch every move, and I love it. So I am not trading crypto yet, but I might soon. KBH, I really love puts this week. This home builders. Weekly price reversal to the downside. It's got room. I wouldn't mind seeing it come down at least to this previous flag area. Let's see. That's not what I wanted. Do the thing I want. Okay, so here's the larger move. Yeah, I'd expect it to come down too. I like puts, at least around 60 with some time, at least 60 days. That's my opinion. You get some really far out the money, some like 44s, 45s, with a lot of time. But this looks like it might want to come down a little bit. What else did I miss here when I went on my rant about Facebook? If TikTok is banned, what's up next? That's a good question. If they start banning apps, like I haven't read the whole bill, but I'm sure there are people who have. And yeah, I mean, what's next? Anything could get banned at that point. Once they do it, all they need to do is do it, and then they have precedent to continue doing it. So Eli Lilly, yeah, man. I mean, they're basically gone to the stratosphere. I think we're going to get a split on Lilly at some point. Um, they've got some really good drugs, some good drugs being notably weight loss drugs, and given the obesity epidemic across the world, but specifically in America, if they've got a pill that can make you less fat, people are going to be all over that. So, Lilly, I think we might see maybe a little bit of a pullback maybe a little bit of a range it puts in like it did here off this last push. But I mean, I think long term, their profitability is there. They've been killing it in the numbers. So, who do we follow for crypto? Grizzlies. He's our crypto guy. Yep. You got that. You got that. Sorry. They must be selling that good shit. Yeah, right. Right. They're selling that good stuff, man. That take a pill and get less fat stuff. I'll take that. Take a pill and get less fat. I don't know how it helps with beer, but I'll take a pill and get less fat. That is one of the things. There's lots of side effects for all the. Every time you put a drug into your body, like it alters everything else too. So, and I mean, weight loss pills have been around for decades. Like I remember them when I was a kid. So they've been around for a while. It's just a matter of whether or not they worked. And apparently, Eli Lilly's has one that works. So, yeah, a lot of people work out. A lot of people don't have the time to work out though. Master, master, master. See, here's the thing. We're like comparing like MicroStrategy to coin, right? I know MicroStrategy just basically is just buys Bitcoin, right? But coin is actually an exchange based on Bitcoin. You think the exchange would be valued more than the company that's just hoarding Bitcoin, in my opinion. But coin is not going up there. Master or MicroStrategy, I just call it Master, and yeah, the ticker symbol just says Master to me, has gone to the stratosphere, right? Uh, this price action on the weekly, in my opinion, is not showing any signs of weakness yet. I would wait until we start getting smaller bodied candles, like right here before it leapt. Like we got these big body candles here, and then we got these little small ones here, and then it took off. So I would wait until it starts putting in like some smaller body candles, some indecision, and then I get some put leaps. Or you could be looking at something like um a split coming in on this too, because I mean they're $1,700 a share. And less than a year ago, they were at 200. So they have earnings coming up. It looks like April 30th. So next month. So we could be seeing investors pricing in a strong earnings based on the price of Bitcoin going up, which is why they're buying up MicroStrategy based on a good earnings. So this could be a very good buy the rumor, sell the event. So I'd be looking more toward their earnings for a possible pullback, in my opinion. But I mean, they've basically they hoard Bitcoin, right? So I mean, if we look at this, let's do a side by side. Oh, man, look pretty similar to me. I would say MicroStrategy is following Bitcoin more so than Coinbase is. I bet like Riot and Mara are also, you know, look, Riot's just chopping down here at lows. Mara, right around the same thing. Did it ever play out? Let me hold on. Never play out. It did play out. Look at that. That's awesome. Nice harmonic setup there on Mara. Got the reversal. Cool. Put that down some time ago. Didn't even see it. Anyway, so like looking at these weekly charts, right? You know, I'll zoom out. Bitcoin hitting new all-time highs. Mara, nowhere to be found. Riot, nope. MicroStrategy, though, new all-time highs. So I'm thinking investors are saying, no, Mara and Riot, you were old news, MicroStrategy is where it's at as far as trading Bitcoin in the equities market. So, that being said, I would definitely be watching possible price reversals in Bitcoin because I think that will give us a heads up on what may or may not happen to MicroStrategy. So we might actually get a gap down on Monday because Bitcoin's come down. Bitcoin trades all the time. So here's Friday the 15th, Friday the 15th, and Bitcoin has made a big move to the downside. So we might see MicroStrategy around 1500 come tomorrow morning. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I like Boeing puts basically to 150. Like I would just, in my opinion, I would just short every pump you see on Boeing. That's what I would do until their panels stop blowing off the side. I would just short them. And I don't really know much about the halving. I remember being around for the last one, but I have literally no idea what goes into it or even what it's about. I don't even know what it means. Everybody, is it basically like a stock split or a reverse split? Someone explain halving to me like I'm five. A 2-to-1 split. Okay. So if you have one Bitcoin, you now have two Bitcoin at the same value. All right. Is that the only way they can generate new Bitcoin then? Like, has mining gotten to the point where you can't even mine a full Bitcoin anymore? Like, they have to have it, they have to split it just so people have more Bitcoin to keep it running up. Interesting. Because usually when a stock splits, they do it to lower the price so more people can have a lower entry point than buy the stock to run the price up. So if I apply that to Bitcoin, if they're going to split it 2-to-1, it would make sense they're doing that to bring the price down so that more people can have a cheaper entry point to run it back up. When is the happening? You know, and then we'll call it a night. Okay. Um, no, because uh most of the time, like I said, they split the stock so the price comes down, so it's cheaper for people to buy it. Uh, when Nvidia did their price split, they were at $1,000. They split it down so that people could actually buy it because they felt that it was at a price point where people couldn't buy it. Same with Tesla, um, and Google. They all split so that people could actually buy their stock because retail traders couldn't buy their stock anymore because it was too high. The average uh, retail trader with their Robinhood account or their Webull account didn't have $1,000 to put into a single share, so they split it so that more people could buy it and ran the stock up. Uh, in the case of Tesla, it ran it up and then it came back down because of some other issues. But Google, I mean, and Google is at doing pretty well in my opinion since that split back here. They've gone up quite a bit, hit new all-time highs. So it makes sense. This split ran it up because after they split it, got more cheaper. It got cheaper, so people ran it up, and then it eventually sold off. And as we pulled back in the markets, and then it ran right back up. There was Nvidia split back here. Where was that? Yeah, Nvidia hasn't even. It did pull back below their split price, and then it rocketed up. So Bitcoin halving drives miners to optimize energy consumption and increase hash power, contributing to sustainability and long-term viability of the Bitcoin ecosystem. Basically, it incentivizes them to make it more efficient to mine Bitcoin, I guess. Right. Amazon too, yeah. And we're seeing Amazon approaching new all-time highs. So, all right. Thanks for coming out. I appreciate you. I appreciate you sticking around to the end too. Um, right. As far as like mining stuff, like I think it'd be smarter to just mine altcoins that you can convert to Bitcoin. Probably be cheaper than actually trying to mine Bitcoin if someone is a miner. But yeah, you are welcome, iPhone. Thank you for coming tonight, iPhone and Jack and iPhone and everybody else who came out tonight. I appreciate you. I'll upload this as soon as I can. Um, I might have another beer here and play some Overwatch. We'll see. But thanks for coming out. And I'll see you in the Discord. If you have any questions, feel free to ping us. I did do selfie. Oh, you're messing with me. All right. Good night. Take care. Have a good night. You're welcome.